Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Pennington County Planning Commission meeting of October 10th, 2023. Recommendations to the Planning Commission on certain items from this agenda will be considered by the Board of Commissioners at their regular meeting on October 17th, 2023 at 10:30 a.m. I usually try to tell you that is the time when they review planning items. It does not mean that any specific item will be brought up at 10:30. The Planning Commission utilizes speaker request forms, which are available in the Commission chambers during the meeting. They're in the back. Roll call. Everyone's here. Good to see you, Commissioner LaCroix.
Thank you, sir.
Approval of the September 25th, 2023 meeting minutes. As everyone reviewed their agenda packet and had an opportunity to review those. If so, the chair would accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the September 25th, 2023 minutes of the Pennington County Planning Commission. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The agenda. Have we already reviewed the agenda that has been submitted in the agenda packet? If so, the chair would accept a motion.
I move we approve the agenda as
Second.
presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as submitted for the Pennington County Planning Commission October 10th, 2023 meeting. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to the consent agenda. Good morning, Brittany.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. The following items have been placed on the consent agenda for action to be taken on all items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this Planning Commission on certain items from this agenda are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Item number 3 is conditional use permit review CU 9827 for Richard and Christine Van Ness to review a seasonal cabin in an agriculture district. And staff recommends to end conditional use permit CU 9827 with the applicant's concurrence, as it is no longer needed. Item 4 is conditional use permit review CU 0934 for Lance and Dana Bellhurst to review a fifth wheel camper to be parked on a vacant lot and utilized during the summer months in a rural residential district. And staff recommends approval of the review of conditional use permit CU 0934 with conditions. Item number 5 is conditional use permit review CU 1523 for Gretchen Strombeck to review a caretaker's residence in a rural residential district. And staff recommends approval of the review of conditional use permit CU 1523 with conditions. Item 6 is conditional use permit review CU 1749 for Mystic Road Cabin LLC to review 2 existing structures prior to a principal structure in a rural residential district. And staff recommends approval of the review of conditional use permit CU 1749 with conditions. Item 7 is conditional use permit review CU 2119 for Boyd and Sabrina Knutson to review living in a recreational vehicle temporarily while building a cabin in an agriculture district. And staff recommends approval of the review of conditional use permit CU 2119 with conditions. Item 8 is conditional use permit review CU 2120 for Boyd and Sabrina Knutson to review a bathhouse as a primary structure in an agriculture district. And staff recommends approval of the review of conditional use permit CU 2120 with conditions. Item 9 is conditional use permit review CU 2140 for Rob Livingston, No Bad Days Campground, to review the rental of kayaks, paddleboards, and UTVs in a highway service district. And staff recommends approval of the review of conditional use permit CU 2140 with conditions. Item 10 is conditional use permit review CU 2141 for Rob Livingston, No Bad Days Campground, to review an illuminated on-premise sign to be located within 1,500 feet of a residential district or dwelling unit in a highway service district. And staff recommends approval of the review of conditional use permit CU 2141 with conditions. And finally, item 11 is mining permit review MP 1601 for Western Construction to review a mining permit. And staff recommends approval of the review of mining permit MP 16-01 with conditions.
Thank you, Brittany. Does the staff desire to have any item pulled from the consent agenda?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Does anyone on the commission desire to have an item removed from the consent agenda?
Mr.
Number
Chair.
10?
Number 11.
Okay. Number 10 and 11. Does anybody in the audience like to have an item that removed from the consent agenda? We do vote on these items with one vote, and that means that they are passed by that one vote. Chair accept a motion to approve the consent agenda with items number 10 and 11 pulled.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda for the Pennington County Planning Commission October 10th, 2023 meeting. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 10.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Tennyson, Assistant Planning Director. Do you want me to go through the entire staff report, or did you have a specific question?
Just a simple question. Put a picture of that sign. There you go. What is that thing to the left, the picture on the left?
This
What
here?
is that post on the left?
So that was the old sign that was there. This is the sign that replaced it.
Okay, so nothing to it then?
No.
Okay, all right, that's the only thing I had. Thank you.
Okay, you bet.
I make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we accept item number 10.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept item number 10 per staff's recommendation for the review of conditional use permit number 21-41. Discussion from the audience, from the commission. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 11.
Mine's a simple question on that. It looks like we have, condition number 8 and condition number 13 are the same. So maybe we should, are basically the same, maybe get rid of one of those.
Correct. Cody Sack, environmental planner. Yeah, it looks like those conditions are the same, so you could remove.
Yeah, so
either
that
one
was
of them.
the only thing I
Yeah.
noticed.
Good catch, Karen. Any other question for review with Cody?
I move,
Go
I
ahead.
move we approve MP 16-01 with the correction of the conditions, removal of one condition.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve MP 16-01 per staff's recommendation with be 18 conditions now, Cody, is that correct?
Right.
Discussion from the audience. From the commission. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 12.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that we strike the rule and discuss items 12 and 13 as one, but vote on them individually.
Is there a second to that
Second.
motion? It's been moved and seconded to discuss item 12 and 13 together. The chair will note that it does take a 2/3 vote, and that when we vote on it, the individual item will have to be voted on. Any other questions? Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and let the record show it was unanimous. Thank you. Go ahead.
Morning again, Commissioners. Jason Tennyson, Assistant Planning Director. Agenda item number 12 is Comprehensive Plan Amendment CA 23-09, and agenda item 13 is Rezone 23-13. And that is to change the future land use from agriculture district to suburban residential district, and also to change current zoning from agriculture district to suburban residential. The applicant is James Shambler. The location of the property is along Cortez Lane. It is currently 1 acre. Zoned agriculture district, it is vacant. Access is off Cortez Lane, and there's no special flood hazard area on the property. Staff does look at the current zoning versus the proposed zoning that's on the screen. We also look at current zoning within 1/2 mile. You can see that on the screen as well. And future land use the same. Staff also does look at infrastructure, being roads and streets. Cortez Lane is a 66-foot wide platted right-of-way. It is currently 18-foot gravel surface. Infrastructure includes private water and private on-site wastewater treatment. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review, and there were no comments or objections received. Staff's analysis of the request is that the subject property is located within the 3-mile plating jurisdiction of Box Elder and Rapid City. On March 28th of 2022, Box Elder Planning and Zoning Commission approved the minor plat with the following staff finding. That the subdivision of the parent parcel will require a landowner to rezone the property through Pennington County if approved. That was never followed through on or made a condition of approval. County Ordinance 14 standards require that suburban residential zoning districts have a 24-foot paved surface. And if you recall, adjacent property, this lot here to the west was recently rezoned and the comprehensive plan amendment changed as well by the Board of Commissioners. This will carry the same recommendation from staff, though, that we recommend denial of comprehensive plan amendment 23-09 and rezone 23-13 as roads and infrastructure do not support further suburban residential development.
Okay, you are allowed to ask Jason questions that involve discussion of either the comprehensive or the rezone. Questions for Jason?
Question. I understand exactly what the staff is thinking on this. I guess my only question is, the county commissioners right next door already okayed the change. How does this square with this one lot?
That'd be a question for the board, basically.
Well, okay, I guess that would be my concern. Like I say, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I'm not sure that this is a fair deal to these particular people if the county commissioners okayed the other one. But that was my only question, Mr. Chair.
Additional questions for Jason? I've got one. You know, these are always tough ones for you guys because you guys follow the regulations the way they're written and whatnot. But it appears to me, and I don't know, I've been doing this a little while, we've got a long way down the road without anybody ever getting tagged with developing that road to the appropriate standard.
Right.
And it looks to me like this one lot isn't going to change the development in that area. It's going to continue. And somebody somewhere down the road is going to get tagged with developing that road.
Right. Yeah, when those
That's a
lots
tough
were-
one for you guys to call, isn't it? When you
It
see
is.
that sort of thing?
So something
From
else
a
that comes
planning viewpoint.
Right. Something else that comes into play here too is that when these lots were created, they were zoned suburban residential district back in the mid '90s.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a new.
In your
development.
research, that's
Right.
how it got this far, you think, down the road?
Right. And just as a heads up, we got one more lot out here, this flagpole lot, further to the west, that is most likely gonna come before you guys too in the near future.
Okay, and then my last question would be, when I see these, and I look and I make the comparison, this would be for the comprehensive plan. It almost seems more logical to me to switch the designations for that entire section than to be switching one lot at
One
a
at a
time.
time.
Yeah, I'd agree. We have some work to do with the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Judge. I know what you're saying. And the applicant is here and would like to speak, as I understand. You bet. You come right up and please introduce yourself just for the record. And you're going to have to get the microphone down to where it's workable for the gentleman.
Good morning, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm James Chamber. So a little more history on this that is kind of in this as well, but in early 2022, we had talked about possibly developing off these lots that are adjacent to the road, just because it's unused land, it's not fenced, it was never pastured or anything. I went and hired a professional land surveyor, DC Scott Surveying, and asked them what it would take. They did all the paperwork and process on it. I guess uneducated me, I guess I did not understand the whole process of it, and apparently they didn't either, as far as having it rezoned when they ran it through. So now we are trying to kind of correct it, like the thing says that we need to get this rezoned to make these lots usable. So from our point, I guess, to we believe it would be unfair to require us, like it says, to develop a 24-foot wide paved road and bring water and sewer, as the water and sewer would be a mile away to do this. So we would ask the commission to waive that requirement and allow this to be zoned suburban residential as the rest of the neighborhood supports.
Okay. And then when you say you didn't totally understand, I would assume you're talking about the fact that you're also under a dual jurisdiction type of situation here as
Right.
well.
Well, I guess my understanding was that we were in the Box Elder's Planning Commission, so when DC Scott submitted it, they submitted it through the city. And when the city approved it, he said, oh, you're good to go. Here's your lots. You know, which I guess if I was given the paperwork, I didn't read it until we started selling lots and people had issues with getting building permits because it wasn't zoned properly. Well, like you said, with this lot 6A, 6B was approved by the commission, and then we'll have lot 6C, which was sold, and the people intend to build on there if we can be granted, the rezoning requests.
Thank you. Any questions for James?
I do.
Go ahead.
What is the road like? Is it Fish Drive that out front? It's not 24 feet, obviously, but what's it like?
No, it's just a gravelled road that's unmaintained by the county. The residents, we just all pitch in and put some gravel down on it. And there's people with bobcats in the neighborhood. We plow our own snow. We do the road maintenance ourselves. There's no county maintenance on it at this time.
James, don't go away. I got a question for Jason. It would appear as we proceed in the future, when we're looking at this, even without approval or denial of this, the only way out of it is going to be one step at a time, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the situation we're in. It's partially developed, partially not developed, and then ag sitting right alongside of it really makes it more difficult. What do you see? Is that the way it's going to go? This particular section's going to go? Jason?
Well, I think at least for the next two lots, yeah,
You
for
do?
sure. I don't know.
At least for the next two lots that are heading back over to the
Yeah, I'm not
section
really
line.
sure what the future looks like out there. I'd assume more residential lots would happen, but we are in pretty close contact with Box Elder now, since this all happened last year.
Okay.
We get routed on pretty much every subdivision that they do now, whether it's in their city limits or not. So I think that'll go a long
So
way.
you know where these things are going to come
Yeah,
up?
I think that'll go a
pretty
long
much.
way in catching these in the future.
I would think that's about all you could do. You
Right.
at least know where they're coming up.
Yep.
I appreciate that. That's a candid answer. Any other questions for Jason?
Mr. Chair. So these are great questions, and I do remember the previous one before, and Mr. Chair, like you said, what's going to happen? And Jason, you said the next couple, they're going to have to go through this same process,
At least one more. Yep.
at least one more. So it's kind of a pain unless there's no other way to do it without changing the zoning, if I'm correct,
Right, yeah.
for the whole.
Yeah, it's got to go through this process
This
to make
process
that
the
happen.
whole time, so I can kind of tell you from my remembrance from the discussion from the commission's point of view, they had the same point of view as you guys did. Just that's why they approved it, is because they already seen it was going that route.
Sometimes they always don't look pretty when we're cleaning them up. I appreciate it, James. Thank you. You can go ahead. Anything else, Jason?
No, sir.
All right. Anybody else from the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Chair is open to a motion. Unless you'd like further discussion on it.
I have a question for
Go
Jason.
right ahead.
Did, on August 14th, the Board of Commissioners approved rezone RZ 2310 and Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2307. Did the Planning Commission deny that one then? We did, okay.
Recommend denial, correct.
Yeah, we did.
So we could do the same thing and let the commissioners clean this up.
I
Somehow
guess
that doesn't seem fair.
my only thought on that is if you feel that the commissioners are the ones that are responsible for the comprehensive plan, it'd been nice if those folks would have been caught this sort of thing. They didn't, and for whoever knows what's the reason. Um, it looks to me like the commissioners were probably right on the other one. So, and at the time we didn't think so.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I believe that Jim made some really good points on the last the last lot we discussed this, that we are a planning commission, and to look at future planning and what happens, it's kind of our role to make sure that the planning follows what we have projected. And building a road to the 24-foot standard is what the plan states. So for me, I agree with staff's recommendations. I will be voting that way. If the board decides to overrule us, I'm perfectly
Would you
okay
care to
with
make
that.
it a motion so that then we can open it to discussion both ways?
I will
Yeah.
make the motion on item 12 to follow staff's recommendation and deny.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation, denial of comprehensive plan amendment, CA 23-09, and understand that we will be voting on the rezone separately. Discussion.
Yes, sir. Not to say that I don't agree that these will probably both pass and go through, and I don't think it's any fault of the property owner, and he's kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place between the two different zoning things, and so I do have empathy for you and hope that that works, but as a planning commissioner, I think it's our job to follow the rules.
Just as a comment, historically, and I haven't seen this situation since I've been back on. It used to be that if the planning commission action put the property owner in a hardship, it was up to the commissioners to correct that hardship. And in this case, that may be exactly what's happening. If we follow the recommendation, we place it in a hardship, and the commissioners certainly have every right and should correct when we put somebody in a hardship by following the rules. Any other discussion?
Just a question on the lot next to it that looks like it's probably an acre two that still shows as ag, but it looks like they're building on it. So what's the story on that one?
Right, so there's an appeal process and there's a time frame. I think it's 6 Wednesdays, 6 weeks before that becomes effective after the motion is signed.
Okay,
Or the
so
resolution is
they are
signed.
planning on building on the one next to it.
They are.
It makes no sense to me to have everything else right next to it, suburban residential, and I know that you're saying that, well, we don't have that road in there, that gravel road is gonna be the same with this one or not, so I won't support not approving this motion.
Is there a cost to the appeal process?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I have one more question. As far as infrastructure, septic system and well, is that how this will be?
Right, yep, private for both.
Yeah, we have not spoken about that. Besides the road, there is public utilities required by our particular zoning.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Karen. Thank you.
One other question, and there's no public utilities on that road at all anymore. So this would match everything else out
Right.
there.
I believe the applicant said it's about a mile away, yeah, besides.
Yikes.
All right. Any other discussion? You want to read the motion on the table right now is to concur with staff's denial of comprehensive plan amendment CA 23-09. Additional discussion. Now, you're voting for and that is the motion. Okay.
Denial.
Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Better have a roll call.
Charlie,
Yes. No, I'm opposed to nay.
Jim,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Kevin, Mike,
No?
Lloyd,
No.
and
No.
Kevin. 3-3.
3-3. There's
Seven
seven
of
of
them.
them.
No, I thought it was 4,
4-3. 4-3.
4-3.
Four.
Who do I have? 4.
There's 7 of us.
Kevin.
Oh, okay. Four to three.
Motion fails 4-3. Chair would address some revised motion.
Chair, I move that we go against recommendations and we approve this amendment CA 2304, or 9, excuse me.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second, just for discussion. Oh, did Lloyd second?
No, you beat me to it.
Yeah, okay. We'll keep you out of trouble until this comes up again, Lloyd. Thank you.
Mr.
Got
Chair,
it? Yes.
my comment on this, originally, I respect what Kevin's comment on the planning commission. I was gonna go the other way and go with you guys, put on a different hat, but then when it comes to the commission, I'd have to put on a different hat, and I'd probably be fighting myself, so I figured I'd just as well vote the way I'm gonna vote throughout this process. I do see the planning commission as a recommending body, and as a commissioner, I'd want your honest recommendation on this, and whether you feel it's right or wrong. I think this is a different type of a situation, and we're gonna see a lot of these, and so I just wanted to make that comment that I was ready to go that route, because I understand planning commission is a recommending body, and you want to keep to the plan development and follow those rules and so forth, and I think the commission respects that, but I also respect the full commission's recommendations too, as a commissioner.
And if I was in your seat, I'd probably be in that same decision.
Any other discussion? I will point out that even the staff has had to make some recommendations over the previous comprehensive plan where there have been obvious thoughts of a different direction that the comprehensive plan should be indicating. And that's being really nice to it. So I believe the reason I voted the way I did, and I wanted to let you know, is because we're going to have to clean it up at least with these 2 lots. And we just as well clean the slate and get it done, and then go on from there, and hopefully the planning commission handles it the rest of the way out, at least with that section and the other sections that are in the area, I guess. And so I'm hoping that. But I did vote against the other one last time, and I can certainly see where you folks are coming from.
It plays into that setting precedents, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
once one gets
sure
approved,
does.
we've set the precedents, and now they're all going to get approved.
I'm hoping my precedent only goes 2 lots this time, Kevin. I'm sure the other Kevin's thinking the same. We got to clean up these 2 lots for these folks. All right. Additional discussion. Hearing none. This motion this time is to not deny, to accept, and it is on, I'm going to read it back. Amendment, Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2309, and we'd be recommending to accept the submission from the applicant. Everybody understand that? We're not going with step. Okay? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, just for the record, we should do the same. This time mine's aye.
Yes.
No. No.
Karen?
No.
No.
Yes.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-3. We're on to item number 13, which is the rezone for the same piece of property. Someone like to make a motion?
I move to rezone from agricultural district to suburban residential district.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve RZ 23-13 to allow for a rezone of to suburban residential by the applicant. Discussion.
I'll just make a comment. Typically, I do not ever support just moving more than one rezone to it. You know, so we're going from an ag of 10 acres down to 6,500 square feet. However, with everything in that area adjacent to suburban residential, I don't have any problem making that leap.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else like to speak up? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Aye.
Okay, we better, just for the record again, it's a very close split. Aye. I favor
No.
No.
Oh, wait, hold on here, just a minute. Charlie, yes.
Yes.
Jim?
Oh, no.
Karen?
No.
Kevin?
Yes.
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 Jason, on to item number 14. Thank you for the input on the last
Of
one.
course. Agenda item number 14 has been continued from the September 11th Planning Commission meeting, if you recall. It is Planned Unit Development Overlay 23-06 to allow recreational resort. The applicant is Horse Creek LLC. The agent is Garrett Kuchenbecker. Location of the property is 23570 Highway 385. It is 18.07 acres, currently zoned commercial district. Existing land use is a campground / rec resort. Access is off Highway 385. There is floodplain on the property. Just an update for this meeting. The applicant has sent the proposed on-site wastewater treatment system plans to South Dakota Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources and is actively working to obtain approval for those plans. The applicant is also looking for an engineer to analyze the project encroachments into the floodplain. As of this morning, he did submit two floodplain development permits to our office for the drain fields that are in the floodplain. However, we're still waiting on state approval for him to actually place them there. So those permits are on hold until we get that approval from DANR. So with that, staff recommends to continue Planned Unit Development Overlay 23-06 indefinitely until the applicant obtains South Dakota Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources approval for the on-site wastewater treatment systems.
Questions for Jason? I've got one. Used to be a rule of thumb that you couldn't continue without some sort of date attached. Am I incorrect on that? Used to be a rule of thumb that we didn't do that.
I haven't heard
Okay.
that.
Just wondered.
Yeah, there was a previous agenda item that was continued indefinitely that we
Okay.
came into
Yeah,
compliance. So
I had never ever
I just, this is.
related one that never had a date. We'd done 6
Sure.
months.
Yeah, so I think that this has been the fourth time the planning commission has heard
Yes,
this.
I agree. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's just, I saw it without a date and I had a
Yeah.
question in my mind.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
move to approve Plan Unit Development Overlay PU 23-06 per staff's recommendation to postpone indefinitely.
Second.
Moved and seconded to continue per staff's recommendation, Planned Unit Development Overlay PU 23-06 indefinitely. Discussion from the audience, from the commission. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 15.
Good morning, Christine Phillip, Assistant Planner. Agenda item number 15, special consideration to Trailwood Village Planned Unit Development, PU 2311. This was continued from the September 26, 2023 Pennington County Planning Commission meeting. The applicant owners are Brian and Tamara Horst. It's located at 3025 Preston Place on 0.23 acres. It is Planned Unit Development District. There's no flood hazard. The Planning Commission requested a documented approval from surrounding neighbors for the home addition. The applicant has acquired signatures from all the neighbors. Staff recommends denial of special consideration to Trailwood Village Planned Unit Development, PU 2311, as there are no special considerations to the property that would excuse literal enforcement of the Pennington County zoning ordinance. However, if the Board of Adjustment disagrees and approves the request, staff recommends conditions be included.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chair, a couple meetings ago, we had a similar situation. The applicants came up and pled their case, and I agreed with them, with the exception that what happens if we do okay that? Down the road, what happens? Well, here we are down the road. To Kevin's point when he was talking about the planning laws and things, I guess my feeling on things like this is if the laws are that way, you don't need us, just that's what they are. But we are up here. We are up here to make some decisions. This is, I can't see that it's going to hurt anything, but what happens 2 meetings from now if another one comes up? I don't know. I really don't. I have no problem with this. I really don't. My only problem is future, let's do it again kind of stuff. That's my only concern.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I would agree. We almost didn't approve the other one. They had to negotiate with us. They had to come to an agreement with us before we approved it. And this one, this one is to within 8 feet of to reduce the setback from 25 to 8 feet. It seems like a lot to me.
Okay, I believe one significant thing is different in this particular case. This is a PUD.
And explain to me why that's different.
When PUDs were set up historically, the idea was that we'd have a certain amount of the zoning authority over it, but they basically came in with a submission that said, we want to do this, 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 and this. It didn't matter what the normal zoning and this sort of thing. They had revised setbacks. They had different things. Now, they may or may not have included that when they originally did this. I don't know. I didn't do that fire research. But when a PUD was allowed a certain amount of flexibility when they came in with their submission because it was designed by an engineer and it was designed by the people that owned the entire piece of property. That's what they wanted to do with it. The other thing that I think you've got to consider when it's a PUD that we don't think about is that taxes are paid on that other property just like it's common property. Those folks are sitting out there paying taxes on that property. This isn't like that we have a designated area that comes by a house that isn't included in their property. So I think that immediately allows them a certain amount of flexibility of how they develop that property. So that was why I was going that direction with that. And we tend to forget about that they do pay for drainage ways. They do pay for commons. And it gets a little expensive in Pennington County.
So when a PUD is approved, does it not set the rule of what that development is? So if the PUD said it has X amount of setback, then that is the rule that we are to follow of the PUD that was approved.
That's correct. However, then they have I always went by whatever the neighbors in the PUD then wanted was more important than what putting my thumb down on a particular ordinance or a setback. I saw PUDs that had 5-foot setbacks, but I can remember reviewing one that had a 5-foot setback, and I think the front deck was out in the road. If I remember right, and it was just a matter they didn't do their measuring; they never marked their lot up. So what you're saying is correct. They have a set of rules, but again, if the PUD members, and it's been there a time, Plus, the rules changed over 20 years there on PUDs quite often by the changes of Pennington County and their sub-regs. Sub-regs changed what PUDs could do, and I wish I knew. There was a lot of changes in a particular, what was it? Right around just before 2000, because there was some development. People wanted to develop areas with 20 homes, 40 homes. There hadn't been that much of it. But again, once we give them a PUD, I think it's those neighbors out there. So if the neighbors can live with it, I don't think we should live with a building that's not on the property. You know, that's one of the things that's in here. That building should be moved and brought with it in. We owe it to those neighbors to make sure that they don't have to gripe about it. We'll get it moved. But I do think when it's backed up, if you look at the pictures, there's a long way from that drainage area to other areas. A lot more than 25 feet.
Mr. Chair.
That's why I wanted to be flexible. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that explanation. That's a lot of insight that I didn't know before. Looking at this lot, I take no angst of what they want to do because it does go up against that drainage ditch. You know, from a personal perspective, it doesn't seem like a big deal. I also know that the way that lot is shaped, that they can retain the setback and still build what they want to build, just in a different configuration. So by the approval that we're doing today, we're just making it really easy on the homeowner to do it rather than to revise their house drawing and make it a little bit more of an L shape or run a different direction. So
I think you're correct too on that. Certainly, that is not a small piece of property. But either way, I'm suggesting that the building that's not on property needs to be moved. I believe the applicant this time did submit the signatures of at least the adjacent neighbors. So,
Mr. Chair.
any other? Go ahead.
My comment would be is, you know, I first looked at this too, I thought the same thing, but I also noticed how they joining the concrete at the beginning part of their property. Now, I've seen boards and commissions get stuck on the standard that, you know, the setbacks are this no matter what. And I believe it's our position to take up. That's why we're here, is when somebody has a situation like this, that we look at it and try to fix what we can and see what we can do, and they can appeal it to us. And I think that's our purpose, is every situation is a little bit different. And we have our standards, but if something's outside that, they come to us and we look at the whole picture and we make that decision. And from this, I appreciate the conversation and the information that I received on this so far, because that was some good discussion. But to me, it looks like, you know, he went to the neighbors, everybody's in agreement, and I think went above and beyond.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about what the staff believes the potential harms might be if we allow this kind of change.
Yeah.
Are there any harms that we should be guarding against? I mean, the reason we have these regulations is the fearfulness that bad consequences will follow. And so we talk about the drainage ditch. Nobody seems to see any potential harm there, but in reality, I would be curious to know how you look at the potential harms that might flow from this, keeping in mind that almost all of this is going to be projected into the future. I mean, very little will happen in the next few years probably, but it seems to me potential harms might be in the future. But I'm kind of curious to know how staff looks at this, because I understand the PUD is a somewhat different animal, and but I am curious about why we should be guarded about these kinds of things. I mean, because you can rationalize almost anything with that kind of a standard of saying, well, this guy seems like a pretty square fella, and this situation seems relatively harmless, and so let's simply extend. Anyway, that was my concern is, are we not looking at this as precisely as we should? I don't know, and and the number one staff member will come up.
So typically, the rear yard setbacks are so you have separation between structures, so you have that 50 feet, so they're always 25 feet. They look at it and the separation from side to side, a lot of it has to do with fire mitigation, things like that, access, closeness of structures. In this instance, it's a little different because it backs up to that drainage ditch where you have some more separation from it. The other thing to consider too is the more structure you put, the less pervious area there is. So it's a stormwater impact too when you're not having those areas. So that's from staff's perspective.
This particular situation doesn't seem to big being alert to some acute harm that, it's, all those are potential possibilities, but I suspect that much of it will depend on what the development is around this over time. So in the short run, it seems harmless to me.
Right, the only impact that could be is if it is too close to that lot line and there is some maintenance requirement for that drainage ditch and equipment couldn't get in there or something like that. But other than that, this is a little unique situation because it does have that buffer per se of the drainage ditch versus just being backed up to another lot.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank
you. I'm going to weigh in here. Karen's comment about the give and take has made some thought here too, as far as my comments on it. That has been something we've done before, is a little more of the give and take, that so that we do work together, and maybe that's where we're headed with this from the conversations that are going around the table here, that we need a little bit of a revised look somewhere from denial to out and out blanket approval. Just a comment. Anybody else want to weigh in on that or something else? Go right ahead.
I just comment that I've never been really concerned about setting a precedence because each situation is different. If we just had, again, as mentioned before, that this is the law, then we don't even really have to meet most of the time because the law says that's what it is. So I've never been that tied to, well, we're going to set a precedence. Because there can be another one that comes in and makes the same type of things that make sense, and you don't have to do it. I wouldn't have a real problem with, if they change the, way that house sets, it kind of staggers out a couple different times. It might be able to be done, but I don't think it's our position either to make it hard for them to get a variance on it. So I will support this going through.
Karen, you got any ideas on a motion you'd want to make if you wanted to look at it, some give and take?
No, I was just putting that out there because we did work with the applicants the last time.
Yes, we did.
Came up with something that was satisfactory to all of us, so.
Anyone care to make a motion on this one?
Yeah, you probably don't want me to make the motion. I'm going to move to deny.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to deny it per staff's recommendation. Special consideration of Trailwood Village Planned Unit Development, PU 23-11. Discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
In some ways, this whole thing reminds me of the way we would discuss the dead-end road issue. You'd have a development and there were 40, up to 40, and then you'd get, but this is only 41, and this is only 42, and this is only 45, and the next thing you know, you had 55, and somebody was still saying, yeah, but the guys before me all got the break. And so I think, and I know that's a somewhat fictional depiction, but there's much truth in it, if you look back over the record. But it is also part of this process of wanting to make people happy. And I don't blame I mean, I feel the same way. If I were in the applicant's shoes, I'd say, heck yes, I'd like to make this change. And I'd like to see it take place. And I'm not so sure I'm going to vote against it because it is under a PUD, and Charlie's explanation, I think, was helpful to understand that. But I think in any event, we have to be careful of, I'm always reminded of the idea of the sailor walking off the gangplank, and none of the steps are consequential until the last one. And so, we need to avoid that kind of circumstance and that kind of conditions. And, but it is difficult. And even now, I'm not certain quite how I will vote on this, but I think we have to be guarded against this. And another comment about staff, and I agree with Kevin in some ways because these same thoughts, the older Kevin, at the end of the line here, you sometimes do wonder, why do you need us if the law and the regulations are clear? But they're not clear. They are written in language, and it is imprecise. And our responsibility is, to me, is to affirm the best instincts and actions of the staff. They are clearly the more knowledgeable in the room, but we still have lots of opportunity for discussion and debate. So I think we do need to defer oftentimes to staff's judgment, but we still have a role. And so I agree with Kevin, and yet I disagree. I don't think that it makes us somehow obsolete. So anyway, my comments, and I'm still thinking about how I might vote on this thing.
Thanks, Jim. Any other comments? Hearing,
Just want to add.
go
Mr.
ahead,
Chair.
Kevin. And you're Kevin K to me,
Yeah.
not the old Kevin.
Not the old Kevin.
The applicants did go in and they got every neighbor to agree that it's not a big deal. This one has got visibility is probably by nobody other than maybe one neighbor that could see anything just because of the trees and everything in the backyard. It's not, again, like another property is sitting there going to have to look at anything. Not that this is not going to be attractive or not. I think it increases the value of the property and the neighborhood. So again, I am willing to go past the rule that says we can't change anything.
I have a comment.
Go right ahead.
If you look at the petition for signatures, it says they are planning to do an addition to the back of their house. It doesn't say anything about reducing the setback from 25 feet to 8 feet. It's not much information was given to the people that signed it, and maybe they talked it up, maybe, but it's not in the petition, so.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I don't see any reason why they can't take that addition that they want to do and turn it 90 degrees. It keeps the setbacks, well within range. It may be in that, if we're looking at north as the top of screen, it would be in that south corner where it may approach into a setback zone. I'm fine with that. I think the way that they have the house designed, if you take that and turn it 90 degrees, it wouldn't be a huge endeavor to change that architecturally. Allows a lot of light in, retains the setbacks. We don't have any problems with it. Why they decided to go straight back and then say, oh, we're too close to the ditch. We need your compliance versus let's design it right the first time. That's why I'm not going to, I support staff's decision. I'm not going to vote for this.
Go ahead, Mike.
But by the same token, say, for example, they came back and said, we'll do a 12-foot setback. Would this change anybody's mind, or is it still the same thing, that it's not 25 feet?
I think a 12-foot would be more acceptable. They're not pushing the boundary right up to the limit. But I still think, it's not a big deal to change it architecturally.
We could always deny without prejudice and have them come back with a different setback, if this would make the difference.
I'd be fine with that.
Is the applicant here?
I don't think he is.
You know, I have to say, and I'm gonna throw in here, Karen's comment meant a lot to me. I thought about it. I'm not having any problem with 15 feet because that allows them an additional 10 in their design, whether they switch at 90 or don't switch at 90. And we've been fair to everything from the PUD to the county and whatnot. It gives them a little additional to work with. But versus a straight denial, then it opens the door to getting something done. So Karen's comment made a lot of, when we do these things, and so does yours about precedent, well, there's nothing wrong with trying to help. And I'd go with 15. I think 15 is something that can be put on the table and maybe along with your ordinance or your recommendation there, Mike, that give them, deny it without prejudice and ask them to come back in here with 15 as a set number and go from there.
Yeah. Well, the monkey's on their back at that point to figure out what they can do and can't do.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
That's good discussion. I mean, I'd be open to that. But, one of the things staff did mention is, Kevin had mentioned that they could change the configuration and go the other way, but I kind of like that open for the fire access myself. To whereas if it came back, if it was a little shorter, I like that too. But to do
Then the setback doesn't come into play.
Yeah, and plus we don't know what the configuration of their houses and their plans are, so it could be quite a bit more to do it the 90. But the fire access, after looking at how close everything is, I would prefer them to just shorten it.
It would take a substitute motion. Go ahead.
So Cody Stacker from Environmental Planner. This item wasn't advertised in the paper or anything. So you could, or the planning commission could recommend to continue it for 2 weeks, get the applicant in here and then work with the applicant on if that 12-foot would work. Because they're requesting 8, but just like the other PUD amendment that you guys heard last month, you can reduce it to 12 feet or 10 feet or whatever the planning commission would want, without denying it and having them come back and
We had
and
3 of us
request it.
could live with with the 15, which gave them an additional 10
Yeah.
feet to deal with.
So you could make that motion today for 15, or you could continue it for 2 weeks, have the applicant here and let them know that that's what the planning commission is.
But
is
that
doing
would
without-
also take a substitute motion.
Correct, yep.
Yes, thank you. Did everyone understand what Cody said? We can actually request the 15 today and avoid any additional publication and continuance of this.
The denial would do another publication.
What?
The denial one would do another publication. Is that the idea?
No, he was saying that a continuance would not do another.
So if it was just continued for 2 weeks, it would just be like a regular continuation where it would just be heard at that meeting. If you deny it without prejudice, they'll have to come back in with the application for whatever, the 12 feet, and wait like the 30 days to get on the agenda compared to
Yep,
2
much
weeks, I
simpler on
believe.
this one. That's it.
To clean it up some, would the motion maker care to remove the motion and the second go along with it, and then we'll draft it the way we want it?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, I would withdraw my
Okay.
motion.
But we need a new motion on the table and move forward.
I would
Correct.
just say, Mr. Chair, that I think aesthetically it may look a little bit better too to turn that. And like Kevin's saying, it'll get you closer to that. So I don't know, continue it and talk to them about, see what a designer's view would be. Because it really wouldn't change a whole lot of where they're entering it.
Of course, we don't know how the house is configured in their mind after the remodel.
It does
That
show
would-
that in our,
Yeah.
in our packet, it shows what their anticipated remodel would look like inside.
Yeah.
And they could still extend their kitchen out and then just wrap around to their family room
Okay.
if it turned 90 degrees. So, that's why see a little more separation between the kitchen and the family room and turning at 90, but they could still achieve what they were anticipating architecturally. I would support a continuation. I don't know that I would put a qualifier on it of 15 feet or turning it or any of those things. Let's continue it and let them come back for discussion so we can talk about how they feel about different options in that.
And they don't need to talk to us if they leave the 25 feet.
Right.
Okay? We can
Mr.
put a
Chair, I would
motion
move-
on the table. Is that
I
a
would move
motion?
to continue this to the next planning commission meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second to continue to the next planning meeting date,
October 23rd.
October 23rd. Discussion from the audience, from the commission. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 16.
Megan
You,
Talent.
Megan.
Oh.
Good morning, Megan.
Good morning. Agenda item 6, Megan Talmadge Planner, agenda item 16 is conditional use permit CU 23-33, and it is to allow a multifamily modular home on the subject property. The applicant and owner is Dennis Casey or Wolfpack Holdings LLC. Their agent is Toei Design Group. The lot is currently 10.72 acres. It is at 23275 Airport Road. The current zoning is rural residential. There is no flood hazard on the property. When the zoning ordinance lists 7 criteria that the planning commission may consider in their review of the conditional use permit applications, they do meet the 7 criteria to be able to place this duplex. The duplex is currently located on the property with a temporary building permit. And they're currently going through a preliminary subdivision plan through the city of Rapid City. This would separate the lot into a 3-acre that this duplex would be on and a larger property south. And when that happens, this conditional use permit will need to be reviewed if approved. The city of Rapid City had multiple comments, both concerning the on-site wastewater system and also the fire suppression that's needed on the property. The duplex already has a fire suppression system installed. They just need to hook it up when they install the duplex on the concrete pad. And the applicant has obtained an easement to access their property because there is, in between Airport Road and his property, there is a strip of land that has private ownership. So he has gotten an easement to access his property. And so staff recommends approval of conditional use permit CU 23-33 with 9 conditions.
Questions for Megan?
I can't imagine why anybody would want to be this close to an airport. I grew up next to Port Columbus in Ohio. Boy, listen, that's a deal. But the fact is, they want to do that. I guess my question is this strictly a rental, or is the owner going to live there, or what?
I am not sure of what the future use will be, but they do need to sign a Part 77 form that's required by the FAA because they're part of the horizontal zoning, noise zoning for the airport. So they will have to sign a document stating that they're aware of the noise that comes with the airport.
Yep. That was my only question.
Any other questions for Megan? Megan, I guess the one that I see that could set us into loggerheads is the fact that their unit's already designed with the sprinklers, and the city in their certification process, which is different for building permits than ours, and it twice mentions that a private well cannot provide the minimum required fire flows pursuant to the International Fire Code adopted by Rapid City. Well, right now, this doesn't have public utilities. I think everybody on the commission is driven by this lot a lot. So it's hard not to know where it's at, or this particular piece of property. I see that as the biggest confrontation in this. In other words, the city sure sounds like they're going to stick by their guns. There was also a reference, I think, from one of your repliers, the people from the airport board made the same comment in theirs reply. Where are we at on it? What if it's already in there? How do they intend to supply water to it? They must be going to go back to the city and try to get on that line that goes to the airport.
I don't believe that's the case. They do, on their site plan, they do actually have a proposed well.
Yeah.
It will be on the lot that's not currently part of their property. So there's a little rectangle up here that they are incorporating into that property when they go through the preliminary subdivision plan, and that's where the proposed well will be.
In this case, it's a little self-serving, and I know what their requirement. I believe their requirement is 1,000 gallons now out of a fire hydrant, and that gets really to be a serious amount of water. Well, 1,000 gallons a minute, I believe it's a higher. It used to be 500. They've doubled it. It's also a self-serving type of thing. You're near an airport. Planes go down near airports that are full of fuel. And anyway, I just see this. I see where if we approve this, not that Dennis's or Mr. Casey's submission here isn't correct, but we approve this, we're a direct bouncing off the city. We did it with the car auction was the first piece of property out there we went against the city on, but this deal about the fire suppression thing wasn't in that one that I remember when it first came out. So I guess I want to know, where are we going to be at on that? I mean, Mr. Casey must know, the city must know where they're coming from. Is it something we can have a representative come here and tell us whether we're just sticking this into an impossible situation?
I do have further emails from Chip Primus, who
Okay.
works with the city of Rapid City. And when I told him that the sprinkler system was already installed on the unit, because again, I have discussed this pretty extensively with the city of Rapid City, he said that that was sufficient. And I can provide that email if needed, but it was just the sprinkler system within the building, not necessarily the fire flow.
Okay. And I understand that there's two there is a domestic type of sprinkler system versus a commercial sprinkler system now too, that Rapid City works with. I don't know. I still don't think it answers the question when their direct reply says it cannot meet the standard. That's the first time I've read that on one for a long time. Cannot meet the standard.
So, based on that comment, I believe that maybe I didn't encompass it correctly in my report, but that comment was to say that they could do one thing or the other. They could either meet the fire flow by bringing in the utilities, or they could put in the fire suppression system. But they already have a fire suppression system in the unit, so it seems like that is the option they're going with. They could have done one or the
Okay.
other.
Boy, I'd sure like to know before we stick this. I just foresee this is the sort of thing where we walk into it trying to do the right thing, and then we end up on the front page of the local paper. I'm just saying, that comment by two of that we reviewed, it's in here twice from two different directions. And that we as a planning commission are reviewing that item, and we disregard that, and it says that it won't meet the flows. A private well will not meet the flows. It doesn't say that they can meet the flows, it says it will not meet. And I don't know their international fire code. When I was contracting, I don't think it was the IFC. It was related to UBC flows, the old, which was Chicago's. I don't know.
If you would like to continue this item so I can get more information from Chip, I could get further communication with him stating what is okay, what isn't okay, with some clarification on that email if needed.
Mr. Chair. I
Go
read,
ahead.
I read the same thing as you did and had the same concern. But your explanation, if it's one or the other, that'd be fine. I could support this if we knew for sure, one way or the other. So I would move to continue.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. The only discussion I'm going to throw in, we do have one other development out there that's got this same problem from a different set of codes and situations. And I don't think we need another. You know that, I believe we've dealt with the Rushmore where there's supposed to be certain tanks and everything. They were taking private wells to meet the fire flows. And the fire flows still state-wise to meet the state numbers. I think state numbers are still 500. Does that sound right, Megan?
I'm not
About
sure of that
500
number.
gallons a minute, something like that. It's less than the city of Rapid City. But anyway, I don't think we need another, so I agree. I'm glad any other discussion from the audience?
You have a date?
Oh, we did not put a date, sorry. The next meeting?
October 23rd.
You have,
Okay, yes, come on up.
My name is Brandon Cruz. I'm with TUI Design Group representing Dennis.
Sure.
He's sadly he couldn't be here today because he's in Arizona doing a surgery.
Okay.
So your concern is just with the fire flows?
Yes, and whether your intention to meet those does meet Rapid City's requirements, because the way they're indicating, they didn't include any other way. They just said private well cannot provide minimum required fire. And that may be an oversight on theirs, just how they wrote it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't necessarily heard that from that statement saying that a private
Okay.
well cannot meet the private requirements, which in most cases, a private well can't meet a fire hydrant requirement for a fire
Right.
truck. However, there's places all over the hills that have to be fire sprinkled in the hills from a well.
Domestic style housing, yes.
Yes. So I don't see how this situation can necessarily be any different compared to those.
Yeah. That's a good point. And that's what we're asking, whether that statement could be clarified, because it shows up in our replies 2 times. And it may or may not be correct. They may have meant it correct, or that under a domestic system, here's the flows required. But right now it doesn't. It just says a domestic well can't. And unless you guys were putting private utilities in there, which I don't think was your plan, that we're just bumping heads with the city.
Yeah, so are we.
Can you live, I believe it, can you live with a 2-week continuance? Is
Yes,
that okay.
to allow Chip to clarify.
Yeah,
Is that
that
your guys'
statement.
biggest concern?
That's
is
what,
Chip?
that's what Kevin's motion indicates. He would like those statements clarified.
You've got 2 jurisdictions with authority, one Rapid City, one Pennington County, and there's a conflict in what they're stating. So we just want to clarify that conflict and make sure the Rapid City jurisdiction is okay with a private sprinkler.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep, thank you.
Any other discussion from the commission? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. On to 17.
Cody Sack, Environmental Planner. Item 17 is conditional use permits U 23-32. It's to allow a caretaker's residence on the subject property. The applicant and landowner or that applicant is St. Patrick LLC. Location is 23021 High Sika Road. On September 25th, 2023, the Planning Commission continued conditional use permits U 23-32 to address the RVs on site, the on-site wastewater treatment system, verification that the structure meets fire/building codes, and if a caretaker is allowed in a commercial structure. So staff did meet with the owner. They did provide a letter from the state of South Dakota approving the septic system. They said that the RVs would be removed off-site. They were going to work with us on the fire codes, and then he disagreed with our interpretation of the zoning ordinance that a caretaker wasn't allowed in a commercial structure. However, on October 4th, after we had that meeting, the applicant emailed and said that his tenants would like to use the RVs as employee housing. So staff is going to recommend that we continue this to the November 23rd, 2023 Planning Commission meeting to address the RVs. If he wants to propose that, it's going to take additional conditional use permits, additional requirements from the state for approval for that letter's basically void now because it didn't include the RV, so they're going to have to get another letter from the state for septic. So staff just needs some time to work through that, and even if it's a possibility. I know Commissioner Johnson asked for research on if we've allowed RVs and managers or caretakers residents in a structure before. I looked back so far to 2011. I haven't found anything. We allowed Prairie Berry to do an RV park for employee housing. However,
Separate hole.
it was, yes, so it was on the minor brewery property and it was seasonal. So it was April 1st through October 1st.
Right.
I don't believe that this would be seasonal, but we'd have to work with the applicants on that, so.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I move to continue this to the November 13th meeting per staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to continue. Conditional use permit, CU 23-32, per staff's recommendation to the November 13th, 2023 Planning Commission. Discussion from the audience, from the commission. I do want to throw in, this is becoming more common in the area, in our incorporated areas. However, I do notice that almost all of them do not keep the RVs on site. They are somewhere else. And that's something to consider. We held the line about the new neighbor that took over the wedding boutique thing, about the parking and whatnot up by their warehouse because of the neighbors. That was one of the neighbors' concerns. If you'll remember, they submitted a letter and were concerned about vehicle parking and trucks coming and going, and we were pretty tough on them about that. So, and that's actually back up out of the way, but it's still a distraction to the neighborhood. So this, I think, is falling under the same thing. It's got to be done discreetly and laid out right, I guess is what I'm saying. So, and I would hope the applicant and their representatives come here because it's something, again, you got to work out the details to make it work. But that's my only comment. So, and you could certainly point out to them, I've known Mr. Estes for a while, and you might point out some of the details of concerns the commission has about it.
I did.
Did you?
He said he wanted he wanted to be able to state his case to you guys, so.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to number 18.
So item 18 is vacation and plat VP 23-04. It's to vacate a portion of platted public right-of-way of Knox Street. The applicant is Pennington County Highway Department. The location is Knox Street between Sweetbriar Street and Covington Street. Access is off Covington. So just a little history. When Sweetbriar subdivision was platted a long time ago, the road was supposed to come across here like this, through this lot right here. However, it came farther south. So a couple of years ago, the school district and the county agreed that they'd give this lot to the school. So they turned it into a lot. However, they never vacated the right of way over top of it. So that's what we're doing today is we're just vacating the right of way. This strip right here is still public right of way. So the county highway department is looking to vacate it. So staff is recommending approval of vacation plat VP 23-04 with a condition.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I'll be abstaining from voting as a county employee. I'm not going to vote on a county recommendation.
Okay. I was going to point out, it's the first time in the history I've ever been in a meeting, we We ended up with no staff or public, but I thought we must have really done it this time. Okay, go ahead.
I move we approve VP 23-04.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve VP 23-04. Once in a while, you gotta have a little humor in these meetings, you know. But anyway, any discussion?
Are they planning on using that as parking?
I believe so.
It looks like it'd be perfect parking spot there.
It's been a while since I was involved in that. I was involved at the very beginning, but I believe that's what the purpose is.
I can say, like Cody said, this has been discussion for a long time between county, the school and so forth. So this is probably one of the first steps in solving the problem, because there's also a resident who takes care of it, and so.
Any other discussion? Mike?
So this whole piece of property that we're switching around is all the school system now?
Yes, I'll pull it up. So, and I talked to equalization. These lot lines here need to change a little bit. They just went with what was there before. So as you'll see, this is owned by the school district. So really, it's their land underneath it right now. It's just, since it's public right away, anybody can drive across it. But I believe that they're, like Commissioner Keen said, I believe that they're going to do parking with it, because I think they're looking at expanding some stuff out there. Not 100% sure, but this just cleans up something that should have been cleaned up years ago when that was done. So
I don't mean to put a fly in the ointment, but then the property owner that's involved there with the accesses to their driveway, do they help them change where they were gonna put the driveway, or what do they do?
I believe so. I believe that'd be something that Highway would work with them on, is working
Yeah,
with
because
their
you can't
approach.
landlock somebody, and that's what this would do.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was part of the record, that somehow that person's got to have access back to, what is it, Sweetbriar or something? Because this one's gone now, right?
Yeah, correct. I'm, again, highway's not here, and I'm not 100% sure on it, but Highway would have to give them an approach off of Sweetbriar so they can access
Can we
that property.
include, is that something we should include in the motion to make sure that there isn't an argument about that later? I
You
don't
wanna
know.
add there?
Is that common? I mean, I don't know on this one.
Highway can't, landlock a property or not give a
Right.
property an approach. So if they're taking away that access there,
They've got to allow them a new one.
They would have to give them a
Okay.
new one, yes.
I'm comfortable with that. Any other discussion? We got a motion on the table? No? Yes. Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to number 19. You're gonna be Brittany today, right?
I am, yes. I just gotta, sorry, I do not have her staff report, so if you just give me a second to pull it
Sure.
up. Okay, so item 19 is Major Planning and Development Amendment Review, PUR 19-06. It's to review an amendment to the existing planning and development to allow for townhomes, apartments, and commercial businesses. The applicant and landowner is Rockerville Goldtown LLC. The agent is Doug Bell. This was continued from the September 25th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. There are a lot of issues on the property with their water system, with their septic system, with building permits. None of that has been taken care of yet, so staff is recommending to continue this item to the November 13th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting.
Is that gonna work, 13th? I assume.
I believe so, yes.
That's now, you know we can do it indefinite now, right? Indefinite wouldn't help them. They want to sell those units that are unpermitted as well as require a water system and a septic system.
Correct. I believe we want to keep up with it though, not
Okay.
do it indefinitely because we've been trying to get them to get their permits for over a year now.
Okay.
So if we keep, hopefully this just keeps, so they come into compliance with us. I know that they've contacted Jason and Brittany. I don't know what those
They
conversations
have been
are.
working with you now.
Trying to get it done, yes.
And this isn't fair to ask you this, but are they encountering quite a bit of pushback from state?
I believe that there is an issue with their water system. What exactly that is, I'm not sure. I just know that their water system hasn't been approved yet. And there's a condition somewhere in here where it says that they can't get their building permit until their water
Right.
system's
Correct.
approved. And I know when we talked to them, they're working on getting their water system approved. It just hasn't happened yet. I don't know what those specific issues are with that water system. I just know that the state has not approved it yet.
All right.
I move we continue PU 19-06 to November 13th as recommended by staff.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve EUR 19-06 per staff's recommendation, continuance to November 13th, 2023. Discussion from the audience, from the commission. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 20.
So item number 20 is the county board report. The Board of Commissioners concurred with the Planning Commission's recommendations from the September 25th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Item 21 is from the public, and we've scared them all off or something. They're gone. From the staff.
So we do have the building permit report. It looks like we're on track from 2022 to 2023. The number of permits is down, but the valuations are up.
Any questions for Cody on the building permit report? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 23, items from the membership. We have none. Everybody about fainted. I didn't even have one, huh?
I'll just make one comment that I really appreciate the planning commission's work and recommendations to the Board of Commissioners that you guys are very committed and your work's appreciated. And I just want to express that on behalf of the board.
Thank you. I guess we're ready to adjourn if somebody wants to make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are now adjourned.